Getting a perfect rating is among the highest honors you can receive as a footballer after a match. As you know, it's one thing to get a perfect rating, but to get a perfect rating from L'Équipe, you must be extra perfect. Only a handful of players have ever been able to reach this level of perfectness, and we'll talk about them in this video today. These are 12 times that footballers deserve their 10 out of 10 rating. There's a goalkeeper on this list. Can you guess who it is? Go ahead and take a shot at it in the comments. We'll find out if you're correct later. But here's a hint, he has a World Cup medal. Anyway, let's start with the most obvious one, Lionel Messi. He is the one person you would certainly expect to be on this list. The way he plays, dazzles, and controls games, he almost always seems faultless. But in a Champions League quarter-final game against Arsenal, Lionel Messi was perfect. That's the game that many call Lionel Messi versus Arsenal, because a diminutive Messi took down the English giants all by himself. Arsenal scored first in that game, but what they did with that goal was poke the bear. Messi turned up and scored 4 to complete a turnaround all by himself and sent Barcelona to the semis. And the goals were all so beautiful. A belter from outside the box, a right foot chip, a left foot chip, and a nutmeg goal. All high quality goals. That was the first time in 13 years that L'Équipe had given anyone a perfect 10 out of 10 rating, and Messi certainly deserved it. And it wasn't even just about the goals, you know. His all-round performance was ridiculous. He also completed 5 dribbles, created 2 chances, made 3 interceptions, and won 7 duels. He was doing everything, everywhere, all at once. What a performance! But guess what? That was not the only time Messi got a 10 out of 10 rating from L'Équipe. Do you know which other match earned him a perfect rating? Go ahead and tell us in the comments. Let's see who knows their stuff. We'll come back to this later, but now let's talk about Kylian Mbappe. His 10 out of 10 rating came in a game he played for France, and no, it was not the 2022 World Cup final. It was a qualifier for the 2022 World Cup against Kazakhstan. In that game, Mbappe also scored 4 goals, but once again, it was more than that. In addition to those 4 goals, he provided 1 assist and created 1 big chance. He even hit the woodwork once in that game, so his 4 goals could easily have been 5. And he also gave a penalty to Griezmann, so it could technically have been 6. Mbappe was just unplayable that day. His former teammate, however, had his 10 out of 10 performance playing for PSG. And we're talking about Neymar Jr. Neymar has had a lot of dazzling performances in his career, but the one that earned him a 10 out of 10 from L'Équipe was the 8-0 win against Dijon in the Ligue 1. That day, the Brazilian was unstoppable. He was directly involved in 6 of the 8 goals that were scored in that game, scoring 4 himself and assisting an additional 2. And you know, with Neymar, it's never just about the goals. He also created 2 big chances, completed 7 dribbles, and won 15 duels. That was just an insane performance by every single metric you can think of. And guess what? In all of this, Neymar still missed 2 big chances. Do you know what it means to miss 2 big chances and still get a 10 out of 10 rating? That's exactly how you know his all-round performance was perfect. Neymar is him. But in 2022, he could only stand by and watch as L'Équipe's perfect rating went to somebody else while he was on the pitch. Remember we told you earlier that there's a goalkeeper on this list? Well, it's not Gigi Buffon, nor is it Manuel Neuer. It's Croatia's Dominic Livakovic. And yes, he has a World Cup medal. 2, in fact. Silver from 2018 and bronze from 2022. Anyway, Livakovic earned his 10 out of 10 rating in the quarter-final game against Brazil at the 2022 World Cup. Yes, Neymar managed to put one past him in that game, but if not for Livakovic, Brazil would have scored a few more that day. He made 11 saves in that game and made an extra save in the penalty shootout to help Croatia knock out favourites Brazil and advance to the semi-finals. He was up against the most successful national team in World Cup history, who were fresh off putting 4 past South Korea in the round of 16. But Livakovic stood tall and almost single-handedly helped Croatia advance to back-to-back World Cup semi-finals. He was named Man of the Match that day and deservedly got a 10 out of 10 rating from L'Equipe. Not many goalkeepers in football history can boast of this. Also, not many Germans can boast of a perfect L'Equipe rating, but Serge Gnabry surely can. The Bayern Munich winger earned a 10 out of 10 for his performance against Spurs in the group stage of the Champions League back in the 2019-20 season. Spurs were finalists the previous season, but Gnabry made sure to ruin their hopes of getting to back-to-back finals from the very beginning. He was involved in all but one of Bayern's goals in that game, scoring 4 goals and providing 1 assist. He also completed 3 dribbles, created 2 chances, won 11 duels, and made 4 tackles. It was a truly amazing performance. He was cooking all night. But we shouldn't be surprised, should we? Gnabry was an Arsenal boy for years, so he probably went into that game inspired by the hate for Spurs that every Arsenal player and fan has. But just months before this game, Spurs had a player who produced a 10 out of 10 performance in the Champions League. The only difference was that his own came on a much bigger stage. In case you haven't guessed already, we are referring to Lucas Moura. You just needed to be there, man. Ajax had won the first leg of this semi-final fixture and had already gone up 2-0 in the first half of the second leg. So, Spurs were down 3-0 on aggregate without their best player, Harry Kane. Spurs came out of the halftime break in desperate need of a hero, and the Brazilian just said, "Hold my beer." Lucas Moura scored 3 goals, including a late one in the 96th minute of the game, to pull off an unbelievable and very dramatic comeback to send Spurs to their first ever Champions League final on the away goals rule. He also completed 4 dribbles, created 2 chances and won 9 duels. The man took matters into his own hands and single-handedly dragged Spurs into an historic final. That is arguably the greatest performance by a Spurs player ever. And it was made a little extra special by the fact that Ajax were on fire that season, so to do that against that super impressive team was something. One of the Ajax players had even earned a 10 out of 10 rating from L'Equipe in the knockout rounds of that season's Champions League. In the round of 16, a young Ajax team were up against defending champions Real Madrid, and it looked like a scary fixture. But the experienced Dusan Tadic stepped up and made it look like a walk in the park for the Dutch team. And here's what's crazy. He scored just 1 goal that day. But if you watched that game, you would 100% agree he deserved the 10 out of 10 rating. He's the only outfield player in this video who scored just 1 goal and earned a 10 out of 10 rating from L'Equipe. Ajax beat Real Madrid 4-1 at the Santiago Bernabeu, and Tadic was involved in 3 of those goals, scoring 1 and assisting 2 more. But apart from that, the former Southampton man completed 3 dribbles, made 5 key passes, created 3 big chances, and even won 5 duels. Real Madrid had Vinny, Benzema, Kroos, Modric and Casemiro, but it was Tadic who ran the show that day. It was a proper performance he put up that day. Incredible. And you know what else was incredible? The show that Erling Haaland put up in the round of 16 of the 2022-23 Champions League against RB Leipzig. This performance was straightforward. It was all about the goals this time. By half-time, Haaland had already completed his hat-trick. He came out for the second half still with a lot of hunger, and he went on to add 2 more goals to his tally before the hour mark. This guy scored 5 goals in 57 minutes in a Champions League knockout game. Do you realize how insane that is? And guess what? He still missed 2 big chances in that game, so he could have easily scored more. Going by his goals per minute in that game, he surely could have scored more if he'd played more minutes. But Pep Guardiola decided to take him off in the 63rd minute, and many said he did that to protect the record of a certain player he once worked with. Now, remember we told you earlier that Lionel Messi had another performance that earned him a perfect rating from L'Equipe. Yeah, it's the one where he scored 5 goals in a single Champions League game. It also came in the round of 16 against a German team. But this time, that German team was Bayer Leverkusen. Back then, they weren't as unbeatable as they are now. Again, this was all about the goals. To be fair, when you score 5 goals in a single football match, you really shouldn't have to do much else to earn a 10 out of 10 rating. Yes, Messi also created a chance and completed a dribble, but this performance was all about the goals. Now, just like Messi, Haaland also has 2 10 out of 10 performances according to L'Equipe. Can you guess which match earned him the other rating? Take a shot in the comments, we'll tell you if you're correct real soon. But now, let's talk about another former Dortmund goal machine, Robert Lewandowski. This perfect performance came while he was still in the black and yellow of Dortmund in a Champions League semi-final against Real Madrid. This game was Robert Lewandowski versus Real Madrid. The Spanish Giants lost 4-1, and all 4 goals came from Lewandowski. He ran the show that day, upstaging a prime Cristiano Ronaldo. Lewandowski's 4 goals in the first leg pretty much did the job for Dortmund and guaranteed them a place in the final for the first time in 16 years. He still managed to miss a big chance, and he even got a yellow card for good measure. That game was all about him. 10 out of 10 performance for sure. Another short 10 out of 10 performance was the one Ademola Lookman gave us in the 2024 Europa League final. Bayer Leverkusen had not lost in over 50 games until they came up against Lookman's Atalanta in the Europa League final. Atalanta were obvious underdogs going into that game, but the Nigerian winger took matters into his own hands, scoring the opening goal of the game in the 12th minute and going on to complete his hat-trick in the 75th minute. In addition to the goals, Lookman completed 4 dribbles, created 2 chances, and won 9 duels. On a broader scale, Lookman's performance won Atalanta their first ever European trophy, and it also made him the first player to score a hat-trick in a one-legged European final in 55 years. Now, how would you look at a performance like that and not give it a perfect rating? You also could not have looked at Erling Haaland's performance on his Manchester derby debut and not give it a 10. This was the first time the Norwegian earned a perfect 10 from L'Equipe. This performance was for those who said the only thing Haaland brings to a team is goals. In this game, he brought goals and a few more things. That game ended 6-3 in favor of City, and Haaland was directly involved in 5 of City's goals, scoring 3 and providing 2 assists. This guy did the job of a 9 and 10 that day. Apart from the goals and assists, he also made 4 key passes, created 2 big chances, and won 3 duels. When you think about it, Haaland scored a hat-trick and then made sure that his strike partner Phil Foden also got his hat-trick. Such a generous fella. Oh, and his goals were beautiful too. That was Haaland's 3rd Premier League hat-trick, and that made him the fastest player to hit that mark in the league's history. He also became the first player ever to score a hat-trick in 3 successive Premier League home games. Nah, that performance was extra special for so many reasons. Anyway, there you have it. 12 times footballers certainly deserve their 10 out of 10 ratings. Are there more performances or more players you think should have gotten a perfect rating from L'Equipe? Go ahead and tell us in the comments, and don't forget to like the video and hit the subscribe button.